You son of a... Yeah! Stick around.
Hey nerds, and welcome to a new video of Sci-Fi Hall of Fame. It's the series that celebrates the most iconic characters in science fiction. This week's video should be a special episode for you 80s action fans and Schwarzenegger stans, because we're talking about one of the greatest beefcakes to grace the big screen. He's the commando turned predator hunter, and his name is Dutch, from the 1987 sci-fi classic, Predator. Major Alan Schaefer, also known as Dutch, is the main protagonist in the first movie of the now long-running Predator franchise. Dutch is famously played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, and although he never received any critical praise for the role, the character has been a fan favorite and still remains one of Schwarzenegger's most beloved characters.
Get to the chopper!
Get to the chopper, now!
Wait. Get to the chopper!
I want you to know you don't just say, hello, can I come in you? No, you have to actually get to know your chopper.
Arnold shines as the macho man in command of mercenaries, desperate to prove their manliness. While the movie doesn't reinvent the action genre, it managed to create an experience that was so unique and well made for the time that the producers have struggled to recreate it ever since. So let's take a look at the movie and its conflict that threw Dutch into a lifelong battle against the infamous Predators. Dutch is introduced in the first movie as a special forces operator who served in Vietnam before starting his own private military group. He and his team specialize in rescue operations, and they came highly recommended by Al Dillon, a CIA operator who had served alongside Dutch in the Vietnam War. Dillon had recruited them to go on a mission in Central America, supposedly to rescue kidnapped politicians from insurgents. As they fly towards their destination, we get a view of the seemingly endless jungle, and we meet Dutch's motley crew of brutes and deviants.
I went up to my girlfriend, I said, you know, I'd like a the house!
With nowhere to land, the soldiers drop into the jungle and walk from there. Along the way, the team discovers the wreckage of a helicopter, along with 3 skinned corpses. And upon closer inspection, Dutch identifies the bodies as Green Berets. Growing suspicious of Dillon's true intentions, they continue into the jungle, unaware that they are being stalked. Eventually, Dutch and his men will discover the guerrilla camp, and as they scout it out, they will witness a Soviet officer execute a hostage. Dutch will then lead his men on an assault, killing most of the rebels and all the Soviet officers before they can escape. When searching the remains of the camp, Dutch will capture a surviving guerrilla fighter before being informed that the hostages were actually CIA agents. When Dutch confronts Dillon, he confesses that the CIA's true mission was to stop a Soviet-backed invasion, but his agent's helicopter was shot down. Dutch was then manipulated into taking the mission after the Green Berets had disappeared from a prior rescue mission. And it's here that Dutch reveals his principles and loyalty to his men.
My men are not expendable.
Angered by the betrayal, Dutch orders them to take the prisoner and leave for the extraction point. However, unbeknownst to them, they are still being stalked by the Predator, or Yaochua as it will later be called. With the aid of the treetops and its alien technology, the Predator kills 2 of Dutch's men from seemingly nowhere and everywhere. Overwhelmed by the invisible threat, the mercenaries respond with a little shooting frenzy. Yikes. And despite all of that, they were only able to injure it. After they regroup, they're forced to acknowledge that they need a camp for the night, so they find a defensive position and surround themselves with an improvised alarm system. However, the clever Predator sends a wild boar through the alarm, distracting the soldiers while it steals the body of one of their fallen comrades. Dutch will then realize that their enemy is using the trees to travel, and the guerrilla fighter tells an old folklore, revealing that the alien has been hunting in this jungle for a long time. The next day, Dutch is determined to reverse the roles of predator and prey, so they create an ambush with a net trap as the focal point. Surprisingly, the alien hunter walks into the trap, but the success is short-lived once it manages to free itself. After the predator regains control of the situation, it methodically kills everyone but Dutch and the prisoner. As they run towards the extraction point, Dutch realizes that the predator does not attack unarmed prey, so he disarms the prisoner and tells her to
Get to the chopper!
before using himself to lure the predator away. While running from his pursuer, Dutch slips off of a cliff, landing into the water and washing onto a mud bank. This will prove to be useful when the predator lands in the water right behind him. Despite being cornered, the hunter cannot see him as a result of the mud covering his body heat, which will give Dutch an opportunity to finally look at the monster. Unable to find him, it leaves to prepare trophies from Dutch's killed men. Meanwhile, Dutch begins crafting weapons and traps using the environment and spare gear. Once he is ready for a fight, Dutch lures the predator out at night with the mightiest of war cries. Taking the bait, the predator walks into his ambush, getting itself injured and losing its cloaking device in the process. Furious, the Yautja shoots its plasma cannon wildly into the forest, forcing Dutch to fall into the river and washing off his mud camouflage. Before he can escape, the predator traps him, but instead of killing him, the alien removes its plasma cannon and mask in a display of sportsmanship. Despite this fairness, the Yautja clearly outmatches the human, and after being beaten and bloodied, Dutch attempts to lure the predator into one of his traps. Unfortunately, the hunter catches onto his trick and sidesteps the trap, but in a stroke of genius, Dutch realizes that the alien has positioned itself directly below the trap's counterweight, so he triggers the trap with a kick, dropping the weight onto the alien. With the monster mortally wounded, Dutch asks,
What the hell are you?
with the Yautja repeating the question back to him. Before activating its failsafe device and laughing maniacally with one of his men's voices. As the self-destruct counts down, Dutch runs for cover and barely survives the massive detonation. With the explosion signaling his position, he is then rescued by the extraction helicopter and brought back to the US, probably with a fair amount of trauma. Supposedly, Dutch and the rebel prisoner were planned to have a relationship after this, but that never came to fruition. And of course, after the movie's huge success, there were immediately plans for a sequel. Naturally, Arnold was approached to star in Predator 2, with Dutch teaming up with the LA police officer, Lieutenant Harrigan. Rumors claim that Patrick Swayze was considered for the role of Lieutenant Harrigan, but those plans didn't work out when Arnold turned down the role of Dutch. Some sources blame disputes over pay or concerns about the script, while others claim Arnold did not want to share the spotlight. Regardless, the producers had to proceed without him, so they wrote him off in the novelization of Predator 2. Ultimately, this won't last long, since he will be seen again in various books and video games. After being written off in the Predator 2 novel, fans will be given a chance to play as Dutch in the 1994 arcade game Alien vs. Predator. It's a classic beat-em-up with an absurd plot where we see our hero resurrected in the future as a cyborg. Dutch will also make a brief appearance as Agent Onyx in the 2008 novel Predator: South China Sea. However, his appearance in the novel does little to expand on his lore, and with the arcade game taking place centuries into the future, we'll start with more recent events taking place right after the first movie. Most of Dutch's life is told through the novelizations of the first two movies, along with the book Predator: Stalking Shadows, which was released as a prequel and tie-in to the 2020 video game Predator: Hunting Grounds. After being rescued from Guatemala, Dutch began experiencing symptoms similar to radiation poisoning, which was a result of the Predator's failsafe device. During his stay in the hospital, Dutch is approached by an agent from the ALF, or the Otherworldly Lifeforms program, and after this meeting, he escapes from the hospital. It's at this point that Dutch was originally written off in the Predator 2 novel. However, it will later be explained that he returns to the Guatemalan jungle to search for clues. A later novel also reveals that the city hunter from Predator 2 arrived on Earth because of the jungle hunter's defeat at the hands of Dutch. Apparently, he became something of a celebrity within the Yautja culture. For several years, Dutch will travel the globe, chasing any rumors of the Yautja and their technology. Along the way, he'll start a new private military group, supposedly dedicated to search and rescue, much like his old team 10 years ago. However, just like Dylan, Dutch recruited them under false pretenses, and he plans to use them as expendable pawns. Eventually, Dutch will accept a mission in the Congo that will finally lead him to another predator. Unfortunately, his luck will be short-lived after Dutch accidentally triggers a chain reaction that results in the deaths of all of his men, along with the Yautja that he was pursuing. Doing what he can to salvage the situation, he takes whatever technology he can grab and flees. A year after that disaster, and 10 years after the Guatemala incident, Dutch will emerge in Los Angeles, chasing after rumors of a city hunter. But he is too late, since the city hunter had already been killed by Lieutenant Harrigan. And while his guard is down, Dutch is captured by the ALF, and he is begrudgingly forced to work with them in hunting down the predators. Over a decade later, Dutch and the organization become good at hunting down the Yautja, and they have retrieved more of their technology than ever before. Nevertheless, in 2008, Dutch was tracking a female predator when she suddenly got the jump on him. He was about to be diced by her net gun when she suddenly decided to spare him before disappearing into the jungle. She must have recognized him, perhaps from the jungle hunter's recordings, and I assume she left out of respect, and maybe a little fear. By 2018, the ALF had been disbanded after their funding had been cut, and in its place, Project Stargazer was formed. However, the new organization was composed of corrupt officials and questionable operatives, resulting in an inefficient agency. But they wouldn't be destined to last long, not after they capture the fugitive predator. Apparently, Dutch was present when the fugitive predator was caught in Mexico, conveniently just off screen, and he warned them not to bring it in alive. Naturally, the inept organization doesn't listen to him, and it escapes, resulting in many gruesome deaths. This debacle will eventually result in the closure of Stargazer. By 2025, Dutch begins working with the newly reinstated ALF. Despite being 78, Dutch is still fighting the predators, but after another severe injury, Dutch decides to infuse Yautja blood into his system. The operation is a success, and he returns to service with youthful vigor. However, Dutch will become alarmed when he notices that the number of Yautja encounters have increased threefold in recent years. Clearly, the Yautja see the human successes against them as a challenge, and possibly a threat. The 2020 video game, Predator Hunting Grounds, is an asymmetrical multiplayer shooter published by Sony. In the game, the players will assume the role of a human mercenary, or a solitary Yautja, with the humans trying to complete tasks while the Predator hunts them down. The game received middling reviews, but more importantly, it returned Arnold to the role of Dutch for the first time since the original movie, making it his second appearance altogether. As players progress through the game, they can unlock tapes left by Dutch, and it is through these recordings that we learn about some of his experiences from the end of the first movie until the events of the game. Released in 1994, the arcade game was based on the Alien vs. Predator comic books, and it tells a story, centuries into the future, where Dutch is resurrected as a cyborg. If that isn't crazy enough, he's brought into Ridley Scott's Alien universe, and of course, he's got a gun built into his arm. Naturally, Cyborg Dutch joins the United States Colonial Marines and reclaims his rank as Major. While in the USCM, he partners with the cybernetically enhanced Lieutenant Lynn Kurosawa, and they are deployed into the city of Sandrad, California, after it is infected with the xenomorph hive. While attempting to save the city, they are overrun by the swarm and abandoned by their superiors. Cornered and left for dead, two Yautja appear to save them, and they form an alliance in order to fight off the beasts. Using the sewers to reach the nest, they destroy the xenomorph eggs and their queen, eliminating the hive in Sandrad. The characters then discover that the xenomorph presence is a result of a bioweapons project created by Weyland-Yutani and managed by the nefarious General Bush. With this knowledge, they board Bush's military ship as it attempts to leave Earth, and they confront the General. But before the Odd Bunch can deliver justice, the Xenomorph Queen makes a surprise appearance and makes a meal of the General. They are then forced to kill the Queen for the second and final time. With General Bush and the Queen disposed of, Dutch and Lin program the ship to crash into Sandrad, and they make their escape. The resulting impact will eliminate the remaining Xenomorphs on Earth, and the Predators will leave the planet, but not before giving Dutch and Lin the wrist blades in recognition of their skills. This is perhaps one of the more unhinged additions to the Predator franchise, which is saying a lot, but the game was received well by fans and critics when it was released. And although the Alien vs. Predator films were never a fan favorite, perhaps we should see the series return as a video game or something more experimental. And for those of you who are curious, the Predator franchise does consider the Alien vs. Predator series to be canon, but the Alien franchise does not. It seems that the people behind the Alien series have always been embarrassed of their little brother. And there you have it, folks. This has been the amazing and bizarre life of Dutch. He already had a challenging life before losing his team in Guatemala, and then he dedicated himself to being a hunter of hunters. He continues to fight and outlive everyone around him, and apparently he will continue to do so far into the future. Portrayed by the incredible Arnold Schwarzenegger and immortalized in the first Predator movie, Major Alan Dutch Schaefer is officially the Nerdites' greatest beefcake in science fiction. What do you think of Dutch? Do you think he deserves the title, or should it go to someone else? Leave a comment down below, like the video if you want it to succeed, and subscribe for more sci-fi videos. See ya!